What's good, YouTube? It's your boy D-Rib. Hey, I killed it in the last video about Darby Allin, right? Darby Allin story. So now we're gonna get into MJF story. Like I said, if you like these videos, I will do more videos like this. I'll figure out what dude, come up who has a good story. But we'll figure out who has a good story together. But I like these AEW videos. I thank y'all because, like I said in the last video, I wouldn't be watching AEW without y'all. So y'all show me the support. Show me that y'all like these videos. So I'm gonna continue to bring the videos. If you got any videos you want me to react to in particular, make sure y'all go down below in the comments and request it. Once it's appropriate, I will react to it. Once it's appropriate. Don't send me no crazy stuff that's like, don't get my channel back. Send me nothing like that. But I recently did a Better Than You video on the MJF CM Punk rivalry. Video got copyrighted and blocked, right? So I had to cut out a lot of copyrighted parts. So I apologize to people that wanted to see the full video of Better Than You. I will put the actual link in the description for that video. But I'm sorry, man. It sucks. Because I literally sat here for 50 minutes recording the Better Than You reaction video. Just for YouTube to block it. And y'all didn't even get to see it. So only way for y'all to be able to see it, I had to cut out a lot of stuff from it. I literally cut out over half of the video because of copyrights. So it's not as long as it was before. Probably not as good as it was. But in that video, I will put the original video. So if you go back and watch that video, you'll be able to see and you kind of see a little bit of my reaction. So again, I'm sorry. Allow me to. Sorry. But I did get the reaction for y'all because a lot of y'all were requesting Punk and MJF rivalry. But down below in the description are 3 different links that you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitch. I just hit 2,000 on Twitch. No, I hit 2,000 on TikTok. Hit 2,000 followers on TikTok. Twitch, I'm almost at 200. I only need like 10 more people. So follow me on Twitch and Instagram. Really don't care if you follow me on Instagram, but yeah, trying to hit 5K before the end of the year. I'm almost at 3K. Won't be able to hit 5K without y'all, so help me get. We're almost at 3K. Share these videos with some of y'all friends, your grandma, best friend, dog, cat, fish. Don't care. Videos with some of y'all peoples, man. Rob as well. But go ahead and get this thing.
MJF is one of AEW's biggest and brightest stars, and he has distinguished himself from everybody in the wrestling industry through his impeccable mic work and his impudent, audacious, despicable, bastard, loathsome, obnoxious, detestable, reprehensible, piece of shit, bully-like character. There truly aren't enough adjectives in the English language to describe how vile MJF truly is. But this is exactly what makes him arguably the best bad guy in wrestling, a massive TV draw, and quite honestly, the future of wrestling in general. And it's insane that he's only 25, because not too long ago, he was auditioning for WWE.
I was just about to ask you how old MJF was, and he just said it. Wait, what he say? Auditioning about WWE?
In general. And it's insane that he's only 25, because not too long ago he was auditioning for WWE's Tough Enough competition. Tony Khan of AEW must have been very glad to have gotten his hands on MJF. And you'd think that all of it.
Wow. See, he wouldn't even be out there yet if he was still with WWE, because those people in WWE, Vince and all the freaking trainers, they make those people stay under the system, like the bottom tier, for years. Then they don't come out till they're like 30 something. Like a lot of those wrestlers be under the freaking performance center forever. Like years. Just for them to come to the main roster or not NXT and just not even be that good. For some reason, they still haven't gave Samoa Joe still hasn't got a real good push. I mean, he went back to NXT. I don't know why Samoa Joe keeps getting back to NXT. I kind of know that he kind of wanted to go back to NXT, but there's a lot of people that haven't really got a good push. And like they deserve it. They just keep putting Roman at the top. I'm not much of a Roman guy. Roman to me is not that good. He's getting better. He's starting to be a little bit better, but he's not that good. I'm gonna let this video continue.
MJF's worst traits and characteristics are all just an act because he's playing as a bad guy, right? Wrong. Even long before AEW, MJF was an a-hole, and when he got to AEW, that just multiplied even further. From his peers to the fans, genuinely nobody likes MJF as a human being. From him ripping on disabled people, to him disrespecting interviewers, to him not crediting artists for using their work, to him getting kicked off of Stone Cold Steve.
Did a video on his most savage moments. Y'all want to go like watch that? I'm gonna put it in here somewhere. I don't know if I'm gonna put it in the top corner or I'm gonna put it like description or I'm gonna put it at the end of the video, but I'm gonna put it here somewhere. So stay tuned. Probably gonna pop up on the screen somewhere. So stay somewhere close. Y'all want to see that most savage moments from JF.
Austin's podcast for being rude to Stone Cold, to him pointing the middle finger at a child, to him ripping the signs of fans at shows, to him throwing his gum in fans' faces, to him verbally assaulting paying fans on Cameo, to him stealing the caps of fans in the crowd and throwing them as far as possible, and much, much more. Clearly, MJF is a pretty bad guy and is quite literally a menace. Even his parents expressed that they didn't like him, and this is what he said in response.
So here's the thing about my mom. She's a dumb, disgusting slut. My father is an old, irrelevant, worthless piece of shit.
MJF wakes up every day and he chooses violence with his words. MJF doesn't just blur the line between fiction and reality. There is no line with MJF, as he does what he wants when he wants. MJF constantly pushes the envelope, and in this way, he makes himself relevant, and you just can't take your eyes off of him. And MJF doesn't have an off switch, as he's not a character. MJF is just MJF. And that's why wrestling legends and many of his industry counterparts and a lot of fans have such high praise for him, saying that he's reminiscent of a throwback heel. MJF also has a way with words that is truly remarkable, and this was evident when he cut his very first promo in front of the AEW fans at AEW's Double or Nothing 2019. Sometimes you see a wrestler for the very first time and you know that they're the real deal and they have the it factor. And that's how it was with MJF, as MJF was a heat magnet from day one in AEW, as he roasted Hangman Page, the fans, and even disrespected the great Bret Hitman Hart. And then he let out one of his classic bastard heel smiles. That damn smile.
So you see, that's where the trouble began. That smile. That damn smile.
MJF is a master maestro with his words, and he plays the crowd like a violin, as his promos have a perfect balance of aggressiveness, quick wit, savagery, and excellent comedic timing. MJF showed off this talent further at AEW's next pay-per-view, Fyter Fest 2019, in which he said this to the fans who were chanting, "You suck" at MJF.
That mother of yours whose basement you live in, she swallows, so...
You know when you're leaving people like this in utter contempt for you, then you must be doing something right. And his talent on the mic translated into the ring as he won the Dynamite Diamond Ring after beating Hangman Adam Page in a 7-minute match. Cody Rhodes was the one who brought MJF to AEW, as he saw something special in him at an independent show, and he decided to sign him to AEW. Cody Rhodes took MJF under his wing in AEW, and they were buddies as they were together a lot. It was quite interesting because Cody was one of the most beloved babyfaces, and he was very close to the most dastardly heel around. And this made MJF sort of half heel and half face, but he was a perfect wolf in sheep's clothing. MJF was nice to everyone only when Cody Rhodes was around, but as soon as Cody left, he turned back into a demon, endlessly hurling insults at whoever he could. Everybody told Cody that MJF was no good, but Cody didn't listen, and he continued to be friends with MJF. But everybody knew that it was only a matter of time before MJF's true colors show. And MJF backed Cody up in Cody's feud with with Shawn Spears. And at AEW's All Out 2019, Cody Rhodes faced off against Shawn Spears with MJF in Cody's corner and Tully Blanchard in Shawn Spears' corner. And Cody picked up the win, but after Cody picked up the win, MJF grabbed the chair that was in the ring, and for a second, it looked like MJF was about to hit Cody with the chair and prove everybody's assumptions about him to be true. But then he threw the chair to the side and he embraced Cody in an effort to prove that he was actually a good guy. Cody and MJF's close friendship was continued as Cody Rhodes got into a feud with Chris Jericho, who was the AEW's world champion at the time, and at AEW's Full Gear.
Like this video, and I'll do one of these on Chris Jericho. I already have it lined up. Need y'all to like the video right now. And I'm gonna do one on Chris Jericho, his AEW career. It should have his AEW career. It shouldn't have much of his WWE stuff. I want to do one of these on Jericho, so I need y'all to like the video right now. Like I'm literally paused right now so you can like the video. Wait. Don't just sit here and try to skip forward. Like the video. Alright.
Yeah, Cody and Chris Jericho's feud culminated. And the stakes were high in this match, as the stipulation going into it was that
why are we
if
talking about
Rhodes
Cody and
lost,
Jericho
he would
right
never
now? We're
be
supposed to be
able
talking about
challenge
MJF.
for the AEW World Championship again. And towards the end of the match, Cody was stuck in Chris Jericho's Lion Tamer. And in a moment that seemed like it was calculated from the start, MJF threw in the towel on the behalf of Cody Rhodes. And this effectively meant that Cody Rhodes forfeited the match and he was never going to be able to challenge for the AEW World Championship again. And this left the bloody Cody visibly upset as MJF was on his knees crying to Cody, saying that he was sorry for letting Cody down. And just as Cody was about to forgive MJF, MJF kicked him in the nuts and then he let out one of his classic bastard heel smiles. Seriously though, MJF has such a punchable face. And when he was walking up the ramp to go backstage, a fan threw his drink at MJF. If that isn't heat, then I don't know what is. It didn't really matter.
That would not fly in WWE, bro.
MJF has such a punchable face. And when he was walking up the ramp to go backstage, a fan...
I want to see the actual video of this now. I want to see the actual video. I want to hear the sound. I want to all that.
threw his drink at MJF. If that isn't heat, then I don't know what is. It didn't really matter that we saw MJF turning on Cody from a mile away because they told an effective story in the process. And on the Dynamite after Full Gear, Chris Jericho offered MJF a spot in the inner circle, which was met with some interest and some resistance from MJF. But this segment showed the chemistry between Chris Jericho and MJF was off the charts. There's so much more to the story with Chris Jericho down the line, so remember this interaction for later down the line. And don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't. But anyway, as MJF and Chris Jericho were marveling in their bromance, Cody Rhodes came out to confront Chris Jericho and MJF. But then the 6'2", 277-pound beast, Wardlow, debuted and he took out Cody Rhodes. And from this point on, Wardlow is MJF's right-hand man. MJF said that he is never going to wrestle Cody. But Cody Rhodes was so pissed off about Betrayal that he was so determined to wrestle MJF. So he told MJF to name his price, and MJF said that he would face Cody Rhodes at AEW's Revolution 2020 on 3 conditions. The first condition was that Cody Rhodes could not touch MJF until Revolution. But this didn't mean other members couldn't touch MJF on the behalf of Cody Rhodes. And on Jericho's Rock and Rager cruise, the Young Bucks threw MJF into a pool. And this was so satisfying to watch. The second condition was that Cody Rhodes had to beat Wardlow in a solid steel cage. And this was the first ever steel cage match in AEW history. So this match had quite a lot of hype attached to it. And it did not disappoint as Cody Rhodes picked up the win over Wardlow in a spectacular fashion by moonsaulting off the top of the steel cage. And this was absolutely insane to watch. Cody Rhodes legitimately broke his toe from moonsaulting off the top of the steel cage. But this was nothing in comparison to MJF's third and final
Toenail
condition.
came off.
The third condition was that Cody Rhodes had to take 10 lashes on live TV, and Cody Rhodes accepted. And MJF giving 10 lashes to Cody Rhodes was some of the most raw, captivating, yet hard to watch segments in AEW history. It was the kind of segment where you covered your eyes in agony for Cody Rhodes, but ended up peeking through your fingers anyway, because you wanted to see the brutality. Cody Rhodes was genuinely almost crying from the lashes that MJF gave him, but could you blame him? I mean, just hear the stinging sound of the leather on Cody Rhodes' skin. Cody Rhodes' back after this segment was an absolute mangled mess, and just like that, their match for Revolution was on, and this segment really solidified MJF and Cody's feud as arguably the...
People say wrestling is fake and scripted, of course. But bro, you can't fake that, bro. You can't fake them hits, bro.
Best feud, not only in AEW, but possibly in the whole of wrestling at that time.
I know
And
Cody
the
wanted
feud
to knock his
culminated
head
at
off after
AEW's
that.
Revolution 2020, and this match was good, but it was just that. Quite honestly, it did not deliver on the massive hype they created with the storyline. Despite this though, MJF got the W, and he still had a boatload of momentum on his side. That is, until the pandemic happened. The pandemic managed to halt a lot of MJF's momentum as he appeared on the early pandemic episodes mainly as a spectator with Shawn Spears on the sidelines. MJF and Shawn Spears' shtick was betting money on the matches that were going on, and while this was entertaining and funny at times, it was a far cry from the bastard MJF that we had grown accustomed to before the pandemic started. And at AEW's Double or Nothing 2020, he faced off against Jungle Boy Jack Perry, and this match had barely any build, but despite that, this match was one of the sleeper hits of 2020. Jungle Boy and MJF absolutely killed it, and I'm sure that if it was in front of a jam-packed crowd, it would have amplified the general perception of the match. But MJF wrestled so well in this match, it was almost like he wanted to prove all the critics of his match at AEW's Revolution with Cody Rhodes wrong, and MJF ended up picking up the win. After this though, MJF entered into a feud with the AEW World Champion at that time, Jon Moxley, and to kick off this feud, MJF had a presidential-like campaign to be the next AEW World Champion, and this campaign coincided with the actual American 2020 elections. The State of AEW address promo that MJF cut was pure gold, and it really further solidified how talented MJF was on the mic, and it showed that promos come naturally to MJF. In this promo, MJF called Jon Moxley a dictator, and he called for change at the wheel of AEW because Jon Moxley was hogging the spotlight for himself. This promo highlighted MJF's brilliant orating skills and established that he does not miss when it comes to promos.
This motherfucker don't miss.
No, he's f***ing good.
That motherfucker don't miss, man.
He's good.
2 weeks later, MJF was attacked by Jon Moxley, and Moxley gave him a paradigm shift, of which MJF sold like $1 million. And this caused MJF and his lawyer to propose that Jon Moxley not be allowed to use the paradigm shift at AEW All Out in their match, which was met with some resistance by Jon Moxley, but Moxley ultimately agreed, and this set up their match at AEW's All Out 2020. This match was really good, and MJF attempted to cheat but failed, and while the ref's back was turned, this led to Jon Moxley hitting the paradigm shift on MJF.
For the 1-2-3.
MJF's feud with Jon Moxley really highlighted how precocious and ready for the main event scene MJF truly was. MJF was so good in this feud that I wouldn't have even minded if he beat Jon Moxley and became the new AEW World Champion at All Out, because he more than proved that once he has the ball, boy can he run with it. After All Out, MJF started cozying up to Chris Jericho in an effort to get into Chris Jericho's faction, the Inner Circle. Chris Jericho was resistant but still engaged in playful banter with MJF, and they were caught in a cycle of competitiveness, constantly trying to outdo each other in little ways but in a friendly and masculine way. And this was a way for them to move past their differences. And in a segment, this caused them to break out in song and dance, performing the song Me and My Shadow. And this was an insane moment, purely for how outside of the box it truly was. Fans watching from home were not accustomed to this type of outlandish, unorthodox form of storytelling, especially on a wrestling show. So needless to say, a lot of people hated this segment, but a lot more people loved than hated Chris Jericho and MJF's impromptu
Song and dance routine.
MJF and Chris Jericho's performance was even in the New York Times best performances of 2020. So clearly this segment caused a lot of eyes to be on AEW. This segment truly highlighted what makes AEW so special, as this was proof that they are not afraid to think outside of the box, and they are willing to take risks and put out something that may be polarizing and could go horribly wrong. Despite the success of this, Chris Jericho was still reluctant to let MJF into the Inner Circle. So MJF showered him with gifts, and MJF got Chris Jericho a portrait of himself accompanied by a clown. But Chris Jericho doesn't like clowns, so he Judas affected the crap out of that clown.
Oh my gosh.
Chris Jericho was still reluctant to let MJF into the Inner Circle, so he proposed that if MJF could beat him at AEW's Full Gear 2020, then he would let MJF into the Inner Circle, and this set up their match at AEW Full Gear. And this match was good, and MJF picked up the win over Chris Jericho, and this caused MJF and his right-hand man, Warlow, to join the Inner Circle. And after this match, MJF won the Dynamite Dozen ring for the second year in a row in a win over Orange Cassidy. But besides that, the bromance between Chris Jericho and MJF was in full effect, as the Inner Circle went to Las Vegas. And this Las Vegas trip highlighted how much the members of the Inner Circle did not like the new additions to the group, especially Sammy Guevara, who did not like MJF. But nonetheless, the group still had an eventful time in Vegas, and the next morning they were awakened by a crying Hornswoggle in a diaper. And after this, MJF and Chris Jericho made themselves.
Bro, I did not know Hornswoggle was in AEW. I didn't know what happened to Hornswoggle. I did not know he was in AEW though.
Morning they were awakened by a crying.
Bro, I promise I didn't know this man was in
Hornswoggle in a diaper. And after this, MJF and Chris Jericho made themselves into a tag team, and they entered into a feud with the AEW Tag Team Champions at the time, the Young Bucks. And MJF and Chris Jericho made it personal one week with the Young Bucks when they attacked the Young Bucks' father, Papa Buck, and left him a bloody mess. And the Young Bucks were very pissed about this. And their feud culminated at AEW's Revolution 2021 for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. And this was a great match, but MJF and Chris Jericho unfortunately took the loss in this match. But ever since MJF joined the Inner Circle, he had been planting seeds of disorder in the Inner Circle, and this caused Sammy Guevara to lash out and leave the Inner Circle. And he tried to even make the other members of the Inner Circle turn on Chris Jericho. But then Sammy Guevara turned, and in a turn of events, they all instead turned on MJF. But MJF is very smart, and he was a few steps ahead of them. And as the Inner Circle were about to beat up MJF, the lights went out, and Shawn Spears, FTR, and Wardlow, along with Tully Blanchard, were revealed, and they proceeded to massacre the members of the Inner Circle. And thus the Pinnacle was born. AEW has always had a soft spot for factions, and finally one of AEW's biggest and brightest stars was a part of a faction. And the Pinnacle was straight money, as seemingly overnight they became the hottest faction in wrestling. Due to this betrayal, the Inner Circle wanted to kill the Pinnacle, and their intense beef culminated in a blood and guts match, which is a war game style match in a two-sided cage where there are no pinfalls, and the only way to win the match is through submission or through surrendering. And this match had a lot of hype going into it, and these 10 men made sure that the match lived up to the hype, as it was
I definitely didn't know about any of this, because I don't watch AEW like that. Y'all got me on it. But hey, I need y'all to keep liking up these AEW videos, so I know watch more of it. Send me videos. Cannot look. I say send me videos. Don't send me any videos by the actual AEW YouTube channel, because it's not gonna get uploaded. It's gonna get blocked instantly. So I need y'all find me some stuff to watch. I like stuff like this. I wish they had a network or something, because I would definitely go back and watch it. Probably on YouTube, but if I'll find it.
Bit as bloody and barbaric as everybody had expected. And MJF picked up the win for the Pinnacle when he threw Chris Jericho off the top of the steel cage. But this finish upset a lot of people on the internet because they felt that Chris Jericho's landing was a little bit too soft. But despite this, MJF closed out AEW's first ever #1 cable rank show in a crimson mask, and this really established MJF as not a star of the future, but a star of the present.
And this feud then continued in a
Stadium Stampede match at AEW's Double or Nothing, with the stipulation that if the Inner Circle lost, then they would have to disband. And this match started off as cinematic, but then transitioned into a real match. And this was most likely symbolic of the transition from pandemic wrestling to post-pandemic wrestling. The Inner Circle ended up picking up the win, and to be honest, this was the perfect time for MJF and Chris Jericho's feud to end. But no, the feud continued. Chris Jericho was determined to get a singles victory over MJF. So MJF proposed the 5 labors of Jericho, which meant that Chris Jericho had to beat 4 people of MJF's choosing if he wanted to wrestle against the 5th labor, MJF. The first labor was Shawn Spears, of which Jericho defeated. The second labor was the King of the Deathmatch, Nick Gage, of which Jericho defeated. But honestly, this should have been the labor before MJF for how brutal and bloody this match was. But anyway, the third labor was WCW legend Juventud Guerrera, of which Chris Jericho defeated. The 4th labor was Wardlow, of which Chris Jericho defeated. But then came the 5th labor, MJF, and MJF picked up the win over Chris Jericho in this match. And once again, AEW should have ended this feud here, but no, they didn't. And then Chris Jericho then challenged MJF to a match at AEW's All Out 2021. And the stipulation going into this match was if Chris Jericho loses to MJF, then Chris Jericho will have to retire. And this set up their match at AEW's All Out 2021. And this was a good match in which Chris Jericho picked up the win over MJF in a very, very screwy finish. To be honest, this match should not have happened because it did no good to MJF having a loss against his name from Chris Jericho, considering the fact that this was the second loss that MJF has ever taken in AEW. And then after this, MJF entered into a feud with Darby Allin, and this feud was basically the story of a bully versus an outcast. But once again, MJF took it too far by bringing up the time when Darby was 5 years old, and he hopped in a car with his drunken uncle, and they got into a car crash, and his uncle died. And MJF said that Darby was the one who should have died. That was just too far.
You didn't say that.
That is OD.
Tell me.
That is too far. That's way too personal. Way too far. I like MJF, but bro, that's way too far.
You did not just say that.
But MJF's and Darby Allin's feud culminated at AEW's Full Gear with MJF picking up the win. And after this, and at this present moment, MJF is currently feuding with the cult of personality, CM Punk. And this was the feud that everybody was waiting for. As once upon a time when MJF was a child, he was a massive fan of CM Punk. And he even took a picture.
Again, I did video on this. A lot of it had to get cut out because of YouTube. And AEW claimed copyrights to almost all of it. So I had to cut out half of the video. It was a 50-minute video. I want to go see that video channel. I did it a couple days ago.
With him, and their first standoff did not disappoint as the two traded burn for burn, as CM Punk called MJF a less famous Miz. Ouch.
I came to play. There's a price to pay. Time for you to get down on your knees and pray.
I don't need no more copyrights.
To be honest, MJF kind of owned CM Punk for the rest of the segment, as he compared him to John Cena and called him PG Punk. And this is testament to how great MJF truly is. And it's very exciting to see where this feud goes. And that's where we are in the story so far of MJF. Usually at the end of these videos, I go on a mushy monologue about,
hey, if y'all want to see another one of these, like this video up. Like this video up. The faster you like this video, the faster I will put the next video up. So I'm always looking at the comments. I'm always looking to see what y'all got to say. I value y'all opinion, and I learn a lot of things from y'all. So y'all let me know what y'all want next, who y'all want next, if I can find them. Like this video, subscribe if you're new. Boy D Ribman.